for joining us at MABA today virtually from Bhavana Society in West Virginia. Bhante Kunaratana, who is very often fondly called Bhanteji by his students, is our second speaker of our Opening the Gates to Awakening series this time. So Bhante is an internationally recognized meditator, teacher, and author. He was born in rural Sri Lanka in 1927 and had joined the monkhood at the age of 12 years old. He came to the United States in 1968 and has been devoting himself to spreading the Dharma and helping the people in need in the United States for over 50 years now. And in 1985, Bhante co-founded the Bhavana Society and became the abbot until now. Bhanteji has written several books, including the very well-known Mindfulness in Plain English and 8 Mindful Steps to Happiness. Well, actually, Mindfulness in Plain English is the book recommended by Master Jiro, the abbot of MABA, for MABA study group many years ago. That's how many of us at MABA started to learn from Bhante through his books. Well, regardless of his advanced age, Bhante continues to write books, articles, lead retreats, and teach at Bhavana Society. And actually, on his 90th birthday in December 2017, Bhante already decided that he would no longer accept invitations that require long-distance travel. But thanks to the advanced technology, Bhante has accepted our invitation today to give us a talk virtually and to answer your questions after that. So now let us welcome Bhante to give his talk on Dharma Vinaya and Sikkhapada Vinaya. Bhante, please.
All right. Welcome everybody to this Zoom talk. My topic is Sikkhapada Vinaya and Dhamma Vinaya. Sikkhapada Vinaya is disciplining by precepts, rules and regulation. Dhamma Vinaya is disciplining by the Dhamma. These are two things, but remotely related. From the beginning of human life, there have been many rules and regulations to make the society function very smoothly, harmoniously, and live with the environment in a very friendly way. So there are rules and regulations in families, villages, the districts, countries, and the world for people to live together, work together in harmony. And they all have these rules and regulations. There are eventually legislators, judiciary, and executives to make the society run smoothly. And there are rules, regulations, and laws. Then people became civilized and gentle, polite, and live together. And yet, occasionally, there have been times to ignore them. Then came a religion. It is just like when you have a little creek and try to cross it, since there is no bridge, you put a log and walk on the log without falling into the creek. But the log is not very steady. So somebody put a handrail so that you can hold the handrail and walk on the log. Handrail is like religion for you to hold to walk on the log so that you will not fall into the river, into the creek. Now, if the handrail becomes weak and fragile, it will break and you fall into the water. So that is the function. Religions began to serve people to prevent them from falling into difficulties. In the Buddhist religion, one day when a Buddha did not introduce rules and regulations for the first 20 years, because people who came to the Buddha's dispensation were very serious. They did not want that much rules and regulations. As their number increased, their support from people also increased. Then more and more undesirable individuals came and joined for various ulterior motives, perhaps not with the same pure intention. And then corruption seeped in to Buddha's dispensation. Then Buddha has to introduce rules and regulations. Even after many years, Venerable Mahakassapa came to Buddha and said, "Venerable Sir, in the past there were very few rules and regulations, but there were many arahants, enlightened persons. Now there are many rules and regulations and very few enlightened persons. What is the reason? Why this happened?" Then Buddha said, "It is so, Kassapa, it is so. Until artificial gold appears in the market, real gold has its value. Both artificial gold and real gold have the same color, but artificial gold can bring the real gold's value down. Similarly, the only way to know which is artificial gold and pure gold, you have to burn. Artificial gold will burn and reduce to ashes. Real gold will shine. Similarly, Kassapa, as long as artificial gold appears into the market, real gold disappears. Similarly, when all kind of people enter the order and began to present the Dhamma, interpret the Dhamma, do not respect the Dhamma, do not listen to Arya Dhamma, do not associate with noble ones, then the Dhamma practice will continue to deteriorate. And therefore, the Buddha introduced rules and regulations. And these rules and regulations, you see, we call precepts. There are all kinds of precepts. 5 precepts, 8 precepts, 8 Uposatha precepts, 8 monastic precepts, and 10 monastic precepts, 227 precepts, 311 precepts, and so forth and so on. So many precepts. What all these precepts, just like rules and regulations and laws, what do? They polish the person outside to make the person behave in acceptable way with following etiquette, manners, and that is all. Then they are called puthujjana, ordinary person. They don't associate with the noble ones. Arya dhamme akovido. Arya Dhamma means noble ones. Dhamma, they don't respect. Sappurisanang adassavi, not associating with the noble ones. Then they even don't, the Buddha said the Dhamma, real Dhamma does not disappear like sinking a ship. It disappears slowly and gradually. It doesn't, the real Dhamma is not made disappeared by earth, water, fire, air. But real Dhamma can be made disappeared by individual who entered the dispensation, sasana. They even don't understand Dhamma language. For instance, there are instances in Dhamma, I say it in Pali first and translate it into English. Matarang pitarang hantva rajano dvecha khattiye rattang sanucharang hantva anighoyati brahmano. Its superficial meaning is having killed mother, killed father, and 2 warrior kings, together with the country and its subject, that individual goes free and liberate from samsara. Now, in the ordinary language, this is unthinkable. Persons will be punished by the law, criminal law, country's law, if they kill the mother or father and warrior kings and his subjects and so forth. Killing is considered to be unwholesome karma by the law, by the Dhamma law. But in criminal law it is punishable offense. But the meaning, in the Dhamma meaning, is mother is craving. Father means ignorance. 2 warrior kings are nihilism and eternalism. And the country is our aggregates: form, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness. And they are always open for greed, hatred, and delusion, and all host of defilements. These are the things that one has to destroy. In ordinary language, normally people don't understand this. No matter how many rules and regulations they have been following, they don't understand it until they learn the Dhamma. And in Putujjana language, ordinary person's language, rules and regulations are something that they observe with reluctance, not with pleasure, not with joy. Now, therefore, there's a big difference between disciplining by rules and regulations and disciplining by Dhamma. And Dhamma language, discipline, what you call ordinary precepts, by precept, no matter how many precepts you observe, we can remain full of defilements. Defilements remain in our mind. They are not outside. They come into our mind through our senses. The mind is luminous, pure, but through various from outside the things, the pure luminous mind becomes polluted. Once polluted, whatever comes out of that polluted mind will be unpleasant. No matter how much rules and regulations we have, rules and regulations cannot control our mind. Mind can be controlled by the Dhamma, understanding the Dhamma, practicing Dhamma, living in accordance with the Dhamma. And Buddha said, Dhammo have rakhati dhammachari, chattang mahantang yata vasakale, esani sangso dhamme suchinne, na duggatin gacchati dhammachari. That means when you protect Dhamma, Dhamma protects you. Just like when you carry an umbrella to protect yourself from sun and rain, that umbrella protects you if you protect the umbrella. If you don't take care of the umbrella carefully, then that umbrella cannot protect you. When you go out with the umbrella to protect yourself from sun and rain and return home, and you throw the umbrella somewhere to a corner, it will be eaten by insects, mice, and would be torn and worn very quickly. If you dry the umbrella properly and fold it and put it in a right place, you can use that umbrella again. Similarly, when we protect the Dhamma, Dhamma protects us. Protecting Dhamma is called Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. I take refuge in the Dhamma. By protecting Dhamma, how can we protect the Dhamma? By putting Dhamma into practice. To put the Dhamma into practice, we don't need any rules, regulations, laws, somebody to reinforce it. We protect the Dhamma from our conviction. When we keep looking at our mind again and again and again, we can see wherever we go against Dhamma, we get into trouble. Where is that Dhamma to protect us? That Dhamma is in us. What is this Dhamma? Dhamma is suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, the path leading to the end of suffering. Where are they? They all are in our mind, not even in the body. However much we take care of our body, using good food, good exercise, taking rest, and following all the rules and regulations, so following nutritious diets and so forth, we can protect, we can live maybe physically healthy life. But it doesn't guarantee that our mind is pure, doesn't guarantee that we get the protection from the Dhamma. Dhamma protects us if we take care of the Dhamma. How to take care of the Dhamma? We put the Dhamma into practice. When we put into Dhamma into practice, we discipline by Dhamma. We discipline by Dhamma. We don't have to live with a teacher. We don't have to live with somebody else. Dhamma protects us. Wherever we go with our Dhamma. And we can stand on our feet. We can be, we can have trust and confidence in us. And Dhamma, the rules and regulations polish us outwardly, but Dhamma polishes us inwardly. It is just like we take a rock which has been rolling down in a river for a long period of time. Outside the rock becomes very smooth, very smooth. That is just like following rules and regulations and laws and so forth. Whenever we go to a society, wherever we have a party and so forth, we behave in a very polite way. But inwardly, jealousy, fear, rivalry, anger, hatred, all are boiling inside. The Buddha said we are burning in 11 fires. Buddha said, Chakkum bhikkave adittang rupe aditta chakku viññānaṁ adittang chakku sampassa aditta yaddhaṁ chakku sampassa paccaya uppajiti veditam sukham va dukkham va dukkhamasakam tampe adittang kena adittang rāgagina dosagina mohagina jātiyā jarāya maranena soke paridevi dukke domanasya upayase adittang. Because our form is on fire. Our eyes are on fire. Visual objects are on fire. Eye consciousness is on fire. Eye contact is on fire. The feeling that arises depending on eye contact, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, they also are on fire. On what fire? Fire of greed, hatred, and delusion. Birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. These are the fires that burns us all the time. When we practice Dhamma and we discipline ourselves to live without getting burned by this fire, by these 11 types of fire. And that is how we take refuge in the Dhamma. When we take refuge in the Dhamma, Buddha said people go to various places seeking for refuge. They go to temples, they go to trees, they go to caves, they go to families to get protection. None of them can give us a protection. The protection gives us by the Dhamma. We get the protection from the Dhamma. Dhamma protects us. Not only Dhamma protects us, Dhamma can show us the Buddha. When we follow the Dhamma, discipline by Dhamma, live by Dhamma, we can see the Buddha and get the protection from the Buddha. That is what Buddha said to Vakkali. When Venerable Vakkali was very sick, Buddha visited him and asked him how he was doing. He said he was not doing well, but he was always in pain because he could not get up and go see the Buddha. Then Buddha said, Vakkali, what is the use of seeing this body full of impurities? This body is getting old, this body is getting sick, this body passes away. What is the use of seeing this body? But Vakkali, try to see the Dhamma. When you see Dhamma, you can see the Buddha. When you see the Buddha, you can see Dhamma. And Buddha, Dhamma are, in that case, one. When we discipline ourselves by the Dhamma, we not only get the protection from the Dhamma, but even Dhamma shows the Buddha, shows us the Buddha. So, not only that, Dhamma protects us in such a way by rules of Dhamma that Dhamma will liberate us from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. That Dhamma will protect us from dukkha, suffering. And therefore, in order to get the protection, we have to follow the Dhamma and live by the rules of Dhamma, not by the rules of outside rules and regulations. That rock which is smooth outside, if you take that rock and put in the intense heat, then that rock can melt because of inside very intense heat. Similarly, a person who is already polite, nice, civilized, can be made into a very flexible, relaxed, comfortable, peaceful person within oneself. Within oneself. So, then the person's expressions will be full of metta, full of loving friendliness, full of compassion, full of understanding, full of appreciative joy. That comes from the heart, from within. Outside rules and regulation cannot do that. Buddha gave very beautiful simile. I mention it quite often these days. Suppose there is a milk tree. The simile is called Kira Rukkopama. Kira Rukkoma. Kira means milk. Rukka means tree. Suppose there is a tree, milk tree. It has milk. If you cut any part of the tree, what comes out? Milk comes out. Milk comes out. So when you be with people. If they say something to insult you, that goes inside you and comes out metta. If somebody, sometimes people say such a hurting things that can go into your marrow, hurting you. At that time, if you discipline with Dhamma, your milk comes out, milk of loving friendliness, compassion, patience, understanding. If there is no, if inside is full of greed, hatred, jealousy, then when somebody says something, those are things that comes out of you. I mean, all of a sudden, no matter how much you try to be mindful, at that instant you even lose your mindfulness, will come out that thing that you put inside. And therefore, another thing we can, when we are disciplined by Dhamma, there's one more wonderful thing happens. Normally, this is a very big area to discuss, but I want to just to touch it. Normally, we say, this is I am, this is mine, this is myself. Etang mama, eso hamasmi, eso me atta. This I am is conceit. I am, when the thought I am arises in the mind, that is just conceit, mana. Pali word mana is a measure. When we have, foot, inches, foot, yard, and so forth, measures. Or 1 ounce, 10 ounce, and measure. These are measures. And they are called mana in Pali, measure. So we measure the world with our own measurement. Therefore, we use first I. I. You ask somebody, how old are you? Suppose you are 75 years old. You ask somebody, how old is he? He would say, I am 69. Then you compare yourself. I'm so many. I'm such and such. So we measure. The age is not something that you can see. Of course, people's appearance may be sometimes old appearance, young appearance, and so forth. But you can never see the age. Never. The number of years, all are in your mind. So, as soon as you hear the person's age, then you compare, I am such and such. I am little older, or I am little younger. So therefore, when we discipline by the Dhamma, this thought of comparison does not arise in our mind. We are so disciplined to not to let that arise in our mind. That arises always. That's why, of course, we use the word, the most frequently used word in any language is I. Whether we use in English one letter or in other languages, there may be more than one letter. But I. And then mine, second is mine. This belongs to me. My eye, my ear, my head, my color, my and so forth and so on. I, my. Etang mama. Etang mama. And then eso me atta. This is my space, period, not myself. This is my and period self. My, not myself, but my self. So, I, my, myself. So long as we have these three, liberation is impossible. Liberation impossible. Outwardly we may be very polite, gentle, civilized, but inwardly we build up I, my, myself. So this is another very big area, especially when we study dependent origination. We can see how this I, my, mine, we build up. We build up. And then in the Noble One's dispensation, their vocabulary is much different. They use the word I, my, mine, but don't use in the same sense that everybody else uses. They use just as a convention, but not in the same sense that I exist or mine exists or self exists. But they have to use convention. Conventional sense, in conventional sense, they use I, my, and not myself. They don't use it. And in the Noble One's teaching, dispensation, even the world is different. Buddha always called Aryasya Vinaye Loko, Aryasya Vinaye Samuddo. Let us say Samudra means ocean. Aryasya Vinaya means Noble One's ocean. Noble One's ocean. So somebody asked the Buddha, Venerable Sir, what is ocean, ocean, ocean? We hear the word ocean. What does it mean? He said, this I is ocean. Ear is ocean. Nose is ocean. Tongue is ocean. Body is ocean. Mind is ocean. How can they become ocean? Just imagine in each and every one of us in our lifetime how many things we have seen, how many things we see now. Can we count? We cannot count. Actually, that is ocean of things we have seen. Ocean. How much water is in the ocean? More than that much we have seen with our eyes. That is ocean. How many sounds we have heard? Sound waves. So much. More than the waters in the oceans. That goes with other senses as well. When we Buddha said, in this ocean, yo imang samuddang sagahang sarakkasang sa uming bayang duttarang achatari. Yo imang samuddang, this ocean of our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, if somebody crosses over this ocean without being affected by or without being attacked by the waves, sharks, whales, and all other ocean-born animals, that person can cross over samsara, attain liberation. What are these snakes, waves, sharks? All are called Mara's army. Mara's army. Through our eyes, Mara is trying to get into the mind and destroy our all wholesome thoughts. All wholesome thoughts. When we discipline ourselves by the Dhamma, we keep looking inside rather than outside. When we discipline by rules and regulations, we look outside rather than inside. When we discipline ourselves by the Dhamma, we look inside rather than outside. See the big difference. So, so that is why when the Buddha looked inside, always he learned to see inside by following the Dhamma, which was Buddha's own teacher. Buddha is the Buddha's own teacher. Dhamma is Buddha's own teacher. And he followed that Dhamma to attain liberation. Then he said, after attaining enlightenment, there is a very poetic translation by the stanza by Sir Edwin Arnold in Light of Asia. I try to read that in his language, not in our modern language. But now, thou builder of these tabernacles, thou I know thee. Never shalt thou build again these walls of pain, nor raise the roof tree of deceits, nor lay fresh rafters on the clay. Broken thy house is, and the ridgepole is split. Delusion fashioned it, safe pass I thence, deliverance is obtained. I can read, say in Pali better. He says, Aneka jati sansarang, sandhavisang anibbisang, gahakarakang gavesanto, dukkha jati punappunang, gahakaraka dittosi, punagehan nakasi, sabbate phasuka bhagga, gahakutang visankhitang, visankaragatan chittang, tannanang khaimajjaga. He looked inside and found that the builder of this house, he went through samsara looking for the builder of this house without any success. Finally, he said, I saw you, I saw Mara. and I broke your ridge pole, shattered your rafters, broke your walls, you cannot build any more house. What did he do? He destroyed craving, he destroyed ignorance, and he was able to say, this is my last birth. This is, you know, how many of us can say this is my last birth? He was able to say that with confidence, with trust, because he followed the Dharma rule. He followed the Dhamma Vinaya, Dhamma discipline. When we follow the Dhamma discipline, he always looked inside. And when he attained liberation without any hesitation, he was able to make a lion's roar. Lion's roar. Go to any place, any community, any society. He was like a lion. Even when he wanted to teach Dhamma, somebody might say he would invade, but he did invade somebody's home to teach Dhamma. That's one of my very favorite story is that he went to see Alavaka. Alavaka was a demon with a wonderful, compassionate mission in his mind. He went to see Alavaka's house. Then Alavaka, Yakka, demon, was not in his abode. He had gone for a meeting of demons. In the house, in his palace, there were Alavaka's wives. So Alavaka, demon, after meeting, returned home to find the Buddha sitting and talking with his wives. He got very upset and asked the Buddha to get out. Buddha obeyed him and got out. Then Alavaka asked him to come in. Buddha very obediently came in. Second time asked him to get out. Buddha got out. Third time he asked him to get out. He got out, and the demon asked him to come in. He came in. Fourth time he said, get out. Buddha said, I'm not going to get out. Now in Alavaka's own home, now Buddha is going to dominate. I'm not going to get out. Why did he go there? He has a mission. Then Alavaka asked the Buddha, okay, if you don't get out, I will ask you questions. If you don't answer all my questions to my satisfaction, I can catch you by your ankles and throw across the river. Buddha said, Mister, in this world with deep Brahmas, divine beings, humans, there is no one single person who can catch me by my ankles and throw away. If you have a question, you ask me. He asked him questions. He asked him questions. Number one was, Kingsu have sadhu tarang rasanang. What is the sweetest of all the sweets? What is the sweetest of all the sweets? Buddha said, Satchang have sadhu tarang rasanang. The truth is the sweetest of all sweets. Is that what we hear? For most people, truth is bitter. But Buddha said, truth is the sweetest of all the sweets. Because he saw the truth. Nobody can defeat that truth. Nobody can say that it is not true. That is what he said in the first sermon, Pubbe ananusutesu dhammesu. Chakkung udapadi, jnanang udapadi, vidya udapadi, panya udapadi, aloka udapadi. I got the knowledge, vision, wisdom, insight, light of the truth which has never been heard before. That truth had never been before, never been heard before. What is that truth? Four noble truth. Only the Buddhas can teach Four Noble Truths. Nobody before him or after him can teach the Four Noble Truths. So when Buddha gave this answer to Alavaka, he asked many other questions. At the end, Alavaka attained stream entry, became Sotapanna. That was what Buddha had in his mind. He went to his own home and challenged him. Out of compassion, he went to change the mind of this demon. That is the discipline by the Dharma. When he had Dharma discipline, he taught others the way to discipline themselves by the Dhamma. Alavaka was so pleased, so happy. He said, from now on, I will go home to home, city to city, country to country, telling people how wonderful you, Venerable Sir, you saved my life. So that is the mission Buddha had in his mind when he went to demons' abode. So, my dear friends, my talk on Dhamma Vinaya and this Sikkhapada Vinaya is a very long explanation. But I have to cut it short because I have limited time. And within this limited time, I try to give you an outline of the difference between Dhamma Vinaya and Sikkhapada Vinaya. And I hope you got this message. And I am happy that you are here. And the sister who invited me to give the talk said that I would answer their questions. If you have any question right now, please ask me right now. I will be very happy to answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much, Pandey, for your wonderful talk. Yeah, now we open for people in Zoom to ask any questions to Pandey. If you have any questions, you can turn on your video and then unmute yourself.
When you speak, please speak a little louder. I am wearing this to hear you better. Yeah. May I ask you a question? What is the name of your monastery?
MABA, Mid-America Buddhist Association. We are located in Augusta, Missouri.
Where you said you are in the Midwest?
Yes.
Where?
About 45 kilometers, kilometers from St. Louis City in Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri.
Ah.
The nearest city is St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Yes.
Yes, I remember Missouri and St. Louis because I have been to Missouri many times, and I had misery in Missouri. Because I got into trouble with the police
Oh.
in Missouri. We were invited by somebody to have a ceremony in his house. The day after the ceremony, the gentleman who invited us, 5 monks, he said there is a park. He asked us to walk in the park till lunchtime. So we dressed up in our regular robe and walked in the park. Then police car came and stopped us. And then I asked the police, why did you stop us, sir? Have we violated any rule here? He said, well, recently there has been burglaries, and somebody seeing you walking in the park reported to us, so we came. Then he asked me all kind of questions. My parents' name, my grandparents' name, whether they married or not, their maiden names, and my where I was born, my birthmark, my surname, my birth name. He wrote 2-page report all about me, who I was, where I lived, why did I come to Missouri, and so forth. And then finally he said, now you can go, don't go anymore, return. He asked me where we were staying. We said in such and such a doctor's house. Until we returned to the doctor's house, the policeman followed us. This is a free country. But this is how the police treated us maybe 30, 40 years ago. Now things may be different, so you can live there easily perhaps now. So whenever somebody says he is from Missouri, I remember my misery in Missouri. Anyway.
Yeah, Pandey, we have questions sent into the chat box. First question is Mara comprised of defilements, which is within and also external entity?
Mara actually is defilements. There are 10 Maras army. In Sutta Nipata, I tell you these 10 armies, names of armies. In Pali, Kamate Patamasena, Dutiya Arati Uchati, Tatya Kupipasaja, Tanna Chatutti Tanna Pavuchati, Panchami Thini Vidancha, Mano Tambote Vichikichate Sattami, Mano Tambote Attami, Labo Siloko Sakkaru Michala Yoso, 9, and Attukkamsa Paravambana 10. These are the armies of Mara. So Buddha defeated them. Buddha defeated Kama, first army of Mara, Kama. When we say Kama, there are Vattu Kama, Kilesa Kama. Kama means craving, desire. Desire and craving, the same name, same. He defeated. How he defeated? He defeated all the armies of Mara by seeing impermanence. Impermanence. When you see impermanence, everything that comes into existence is impermanence. They are permanently impermanent. There's a beautiful discourse in Samyutta Nikaya called Anicca Sanya Sutta. Anicca Sanya Sutta. Perception of impermanence discourse. There Buddha has given 10 similes to make it very clear. The last simile is just like in autumn, when all the leaves are fallen from trees, the sky is free, is without any clouds, blue sky. At that time when sun rises, it shines on every object that you can see very clearly. Similarly, when we practice meditation on impermanence, you can see impermanence in everything. So he saw all these 10 armies are impermanent. Of course, in Buddhist literature, there are many different armies, different maras. That is literature. This is Dhamma. The meaning in Dhamma is one thing. In literature, it is quite another. It is poetic and pleasing to ears and very romantic and aesthetic and so forth and so on. All these are in literature. But when it comes to Dhamma, you can see the core, heart of truth. That is why Buddha told Alavaka, truth is the sweetest of all the sweet.
Thank you, Bande. Another question is, with respect to the different precept lists, what do you advise for the average lay practitioner? 5 precepts always, and 8 precepts on Upasada days, and 10 precepts on retreat?
Recommend to what, lay people?
Yes, for lay people.
Yeah, I think beginning with 5 precepts is very good if they can observe the 5 precepts. And observing even the 5 precepts is not easy. One day little girl came with her parents, grandparents, uncle, aunts and all these things to see me. And we were talking together. Then this girl stood up. She was 8 years old. She stood up and said, Bhante, we children can observe the 5 precepts. We don't kill, we don't steal, we don't commit sexual misconduct, we don't lie, we don't drink. And then she said, but our parents cannot observe any of them. You see, parents were blushed and they felt so embarrassed. The little girl was waiting for a moment because this was so annoying to her when parents broke these rules. I think it is better for them to start with the 5 precepts and keep them unbroken. To keep the 5 precepts without breaking, they have to have a Dhamma Vinaya. With the Dhamma Vinaya, Sikkhapada Vinaya you can observe. You break Sikkhapada Vinaya because you don't have Dhamma Vinaya. See the power of Dhamma Vinaya? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pante. And I will let Starlit, who raised his hand or her hand to ask question. Starlit, do you want to ask your question?
I
Yeah.
cannot hear you.
Hi. Um, I am not being disrespectful. I'm in bed because I'm bedridden.
Uh-huh.
And I would like to ask you this question.
Very good.
Do you see this rock? What you were talking about before, would this be an example of somebody who would be enlightened? It would be a rock on the outside, but when you look inside of it, it's hollow and really beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I
see,
can see inside beautiful, then what outside is rough.
yes, would
Yeah.
that be an example of an enlightened person?
Ah, enlightened person, both outside and inside is smooth. Not only inside or not only outside, both are smooth. Both are very, very soft, gentle, and pliable. You see, enlightened persons will not behave differently. Their thoughts, words, and deeds are in agreement. You see? So I'm glad that even you are bedridden, you have been able to participate in this Dhamma talk, Dhamma discussion.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed your talk. I have learned a lot and I'm very, very happy that I get to
Very
participate.
good, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for your question. And Pante, the next question is, how is craving felt within experience? Is letting go the disappearance of the feeling of craving?
Could you speak up a little loud? I cannot hear you well.
The question is like this. How is craving felt within experience? Is letting go the disappearance of the feeling of craving?
How far letting go,
How is craving felt?
craving,
Yeah, craving felt
yeah?
within the experience, maybe within one's experience. Is that means that letting go the disappearance of the feeling of craving?
Yes, letting, now, uh, craving for feeling or
Craving. Mark, do you want to ask your questions?
My question is the feeling of craving. Is that something that you can feel as a sensation, as like a bodily sensation, or something?
feeling craving?
Yes.
Yeah. It is when the craving arises, you feel the craving. Craving is a mental state. In the untrained mind, craving definitely arises. When the mind is trained, the person can become mindful of the craving and learn to let go of the craving. Craving is sort of enjoyment. It is called asada in Pali, asada. You enjoy the craving, but in reality you do not enjoy the craving, it creates pain. Because until the craving is fulfilled, you are not pleased, you are not settled, you are not happy. So you want to fulfill your craving. And unfortunately, craving is something that you can never fulfill, because when you overcome craving for one thing, another craving arises. When you overcome that, a craving arises for something else. So craving can make you unhappy. Craving can create suffering. Craving can create pain. So we train the mind through the Dhamma, have Dhamma discipline to curtail, reduce, minimize and get rid of our craving. Of course, that will not happen very quickly, but through training we can one day. That is our very optimistic goal, that one day we can overcome craving and totally liberate from suffering. And the feeling arises from craving is not pleasant. It is painful until you know suffering actually is insatiability of craving. Crave can never satiate, never satisfied. By increasing more craving, craving can never be satisfied. By decreasing craving, eventually you bring craving to zero. Otherwise, craving always remains. It is just like dividing 3 by 2. When you divide 3 by 2, you always have 1. And add another, if you forget to add 0, then adding 0 is bringing your craving down to 0. And you forget, and you keep this 1, remaining 1. So for the next life or next thing. And therefore when we have craving, we try to nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. So that cannot happen very quickly. It takes some time, surely. Yes.
Thank you, Bande.
So I like to end the session now, and also want to wish as I do at the end of every session, by means of these meritorious deeds, may we never join with the foolish. We may join always with the wise until we attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released and attain everlasting peace, Nibbana. So I want to wish all those who are in hospitals recover very quickly, return to their very normal, healthy life to continue their Dhamma practice. All the doctors and nurses and hospital staffs who take care of these people, even at the risk of their own health, may they continue their compassionate service and help the world in ways that they can. And all those who are supporting all these wonderful projects with generosity may continue their generosity for the benefit of everybody and live long in very good health and attain Nibbana by practicing Dhamma. May you all who have participated in this discussion encouraged me to talk, may live long in very good health, physically and mentally, and follow the Dhamma and attain everlasting happiness, Nibbana. I end the session and thank you.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu.
sadhu.
Thank you.
Take care, Bante.
You too. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thank you, everybody.